computers are dumb. They can only answer questions. And I think the point is, the hard part is asking the questions.
Right.
The hard part is something that only us creative people can do. And so if we're not enabling people to do more, if we're just trying to automate or take away work from them, or just gather data for the sake of gathering it, we haven't done anything.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. I love talking to fast-growing startups. Meet Sagi Eliyahu, the co-founder and CEO of Tonkean. Tonkean is the operating system for business operations, transforming operations teams from facilitators into makers with an enterprise-grade, no-code process orchestration platform. By abstracting the technical knowledge required to automate, monitor, and manage mission-critical business processes while still maintaining compliance and security, Tonkean enables enterprises to accelerate operational velocity at scale. Founded in 2015, Tonkean is headquartered in San Francisco with R&D in Tel Aviv. Sagi Eliyahu, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much for joining me from San Francisco. Running a really, really cool company, Tonkean, which I just learned is a type of a monkey. So you'll explain to me that the name choice in a second. But until then, the whole idea of data-driven companies, data-driven decisions, the intersection of business and intelligence, and how processes are being made within businesses, I think it's fascinating. And I think it's fascinating in a changing world with an accelerated globalization, with remote work and decisions having to be made across a variety of disciplines within companies. And so you can see already that I'm really excited about what you're doing. Sagi, before we even dive into what I just said, who is Sagi Eliyahu?
Well, again, thank you for having me, Michael. I'm CEO and founder of Tonkean. And I like to say that I'm a software guy at heart. I've been writing code since I was 10 years old, type of thing. But had the experience and the opportunity to grow as a leader and an executive in public company before starting Tonkean. And so I'm very bullish about this space as well. And I actually like to say that we started Tonkean about 6 years ago. So I'm excited to see your excitement, because let me tell you, 6 years ago, no one understood what I want from them.
I can imagine.
It's a good time.
I can imagine. Take me back 6 years ago. You're sitting, you're thinking, you're looking at the world. What are you observing?
So, there's a benefit always to come into a room for the first time, where you look around and everything is new for you. You don't have the baggage of, what is the status quo, how, the way we used to do things. And that's kind of what happened to me. I was in the army in Israel, in the intelligence unit. I, joined a small startup that got acquired by a public tech company. And I got the opportunity to grow there relatively quickly and grow a team there. So we actually grew the team in Israel from about 7 people we were in the startup to over 150 people. And I was leading this group. And then I moved with this company here to the Bay Area. That's how I ended up here originally. And at that point had over 300 people under me. And so no longer engineering, more global and different parts of the business. But I was new to all of it. I sort of grew into it, and I had my engineering and software experience, but not necessarily operation experience. And so every time I came to, whether it was an executive staff meeting or an offsite, or whether it was just like ordinary decision making, I just felt like things are weird, are strange, are inefficient, are dare I say, old in the way we do it. And it's a known thing that, development and R&D usually are, a few steps ahead with technology in general, but even with, methodology and how you operate, because you need to sort of keep up with the technology advances, right? But the rest of the business, how do you manage legal? How do you manage sales? How do you manage, marketing? How do you manage finance? It's sort of like lagging, if you will, in the methodologies and the tools you're using. And I just felt like, honestly, there's a huge mismatch between the technology we have and what we need in order to run a business. And so to kind of, the highlight, a lot of people talk about, like, what is the sort of like, that light bulb moment. For me, it was, I realized that business processes that we all do all the time are not actually about data. They're about people. But 100% of software in the organization is about data. Move data around, you log data, you view data, and the things we've built are not built for how people work. In fact, we're changing the way people work in order to fit to the tools we have, and that just felt like a big enough problem for me to solve. And so I started to join forces with my co-founder and start Tonkean.
So you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, how in the world am I gonna change the way businesses are run from the inside, how processes are run, how decisions are being made, not letting the data be the epicenter of all the decisions, but allowing the people to run the processes. How do you even begin to rationalize through what type of product you can build to make that happen?
It's hard. In fact, it took, to be honest, 3 years for us to really start a breakthrough.
Wow.
So only 3 years ago is really when, things start to rapidly turn for us. The first 3 years are a combination of that sort of trial and error, trying to figure this out and trying to better understand where the market is currently, and, how do we take that concept that is very emotional to me, but not as, at the beginning wasn't as like practical. So how do you kind of turn it into a practical solution? But to be honest, the market wasn't there too. So there's other things that are important. Digital transformation is just a huge thing for the last 10 years with the cloud and everything. And today, a lot more companies are in the cloud, but not everyone still. But it's a different situation than it was 6 years ago, than it was 10 years ago. That's one thing.
Right.
APIs, just the concept of companies building products and understanding that they need to be part of an ecosystem, is an obvious thing now. It was not obvious 10 years ago. It was less obvious 6 years ago. So a lot of those things, are the world has moved to it. But even automation, people that know about the space, a little bit of no code, low code, and automation in general, that concept of not every problem should be solved necessarily with buying an off-the-shelf product. Just this mental thinking is also something that, sort of grew as a market, side by side with our personal growth as a company. And so it really sort of like met in the middle, I like to say, about 3 years ago.
Right.
But yeah, that's part of the process.
When you're approaching companies and you're talking about the way processes are run, the way data is run within an organization, how receptive are they? Even from the light bulb moment, when 3 years ago things started to turn, how receptive are they the first time they're thinking critically about, okay, we're running an operation here, we might actually be making decisions without the right tools?
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things. One, the investment or the priority for companies to invest in improving operations. That's almost like a culture shift. The understanding that we need to invest in how we do things just as much as investing in what we do. And COVID, is terrible, but but from a prioritization stand was actually very inducive moment, because what happened was change is all of a sudden not a theoretical thing that you need to be afraid of. It literally just happened. Everyone had to change everything about how they work, whether it's remote, whether it's the shutdowns, whether it's the fact that your customers and consumers change their behavior. That change was not no longer a theoretical thing. It was an immediate thing that you have to adapt to. And if you don't, you die. It's very simple. It's as simple as that. And so all of a sudden companies that, even big companies, which I can talk in a second, like the type of companies we work with, that never had operational efficiency or operational excellence in their top, 3 company-wide initiatives, are now kind of made the cut and became like the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 goals. Wow. No longer only revenue or only customer satisfaction, but also operational excellence and operational efficiency. So that's the first thing. It's like, why would you even listen to me? Like, why does that even matter, right? And then the second thing is, what does it actually mean, though? What does it mean to change to up-level your operation, the way you leverage technology for it? So one thing that people need to understand is that nothing ever happens in a silo. It's like it's a movement, and you maybe even know it yourself. 10 years ago, you had roles like developer operations, DevOps, and sales operations. Those are about 10 years old today, but it was basically the only type of operations you had. Today, every department has an operation teams. You have legal operations and finance operations and IT operations and compliance operations and HR. Literally name a department and they now have an operation role. That's part of that investment. That's part of that understanding that you need to put people to think about how are they gonna improve the operation, the processes as a full-time job, not as an after effect that something doesn't work, let's fix it.
Right.
But like I said, what is the technology? What is the methodology that is available for them to actually iterate? And so, without getting into too much details, you can think about what we're trying to bring to customers from our product and our capabilities, similar to the invention of the assembly line in a factory floor. Before, there was a time in history where factories ran as stations of work, some heavy machines, some just people sitting together. And literally the people that were handling the process were people wearing a yellow vest, yelling.
Yes.
The process was something you print on the wall.
Right.
And then the Industrial Revolution literally started from that simple concept of we need to orchestrate the work, not only execute the work better, but the way we actually move the work around the factory floor needs to be orchestrated. Even if there's still station of work that are humans and not only machines. It's not only connecting machines, it's actually orchestrating and coordinating the entire thing. And so that's what we're trying to bring to businesses, to enable those operation teams to build their own custom solutions without writing any code. So 100% no code in a composable fashion. So, and there's a lot of big words, but it's basic, simple concepts of, hey, take the parts that you already have and think about them as Lego blocks.
Right.
And build your own solution with those blocks that fits your need perfectly, so you can actually now start to optimize it and iterate on it.
I'd love to pick your brain on, as you started mentioning that you love software, right? That's how we started the conversation. And I think that there's an interesting question here to be asked, which is, this idea of generalization versus customization. And, we're talking about, building software, building a product that is aiming to allow, a generalized group of companies create customized solutions for them without using code themselves, right? Without having to go and tweak the product in any way. It's basically taking two polar opposites and building them in one. What is that process like, either from a technological perspective or from a business perspective?
It is actually comes down to that composable approach. And the funny thing about bringing software into, different places and believing in software, it's not only the technical part of the software, is the mental concept of it, the ability to build whatever you need. Like what software really gives in a digital world that we live in, it's a superpower. You can build whatever you want. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all digital, it's all software. So if you can build software, you can build whatever you want. But do you know what the percentage of people that can code in the world? Guess.
Oof. I would go with 0.1%.
Not far. Less than half a percent.
Less than half a percent.
0.4. And it's nothing if you think about it.
It's nothing. It's really nothing.
I like to think about it that if you think about humanity as in a tribal stage, you have 100 people in a tribe. If only half a person could build things,
only the kid can code.
Yeah, we won't survive. You know what I mean? Right. So the percentage of people that can actually build things, figure out problems, find solutions, I call those type of people makers. And the idea is the makers, they see a problem, they don't raise their hand like, hey guys, there's a problem. Instead, they're like, oh, I wonder how I can fix it. And this is not statistically accurate because I don't know if I can count it, but just logically speaking, again, going back to that tribe example, there's got to be at least 20, 30%, or by minimum 10% of the population that are makers, because otherwise, again, we won't survive, right?
Right, and this, just to make it clear, when you're calling a maker, this is not a professional trait. This is a personal characteristic of the way we approach problems and solutions, right?
Exactly. And the only difference between a maker and a coder in this example, just like a difference between a maker and a woodworker, is the skill set and the tools that they have in order to do that, to bring solutions to life. They already have the personality and the capability to do it. Even this podcast was much harder to do in the past without the different tools. You had to have like a full studio to do that. So what does this technology allow you to do? To bring people that actually has that creativity and bring that to market. Same goes to Photoshop or other, design tools that used to be much more complex, but the abstraction of that complexity, but still allowing you to create whatever you want. To your previous point, right? It's a general thing, but it allows to abstract the complexity. What it really does, it's empower people that doesn't have, reduce that skills gap into people that already have that, personal trait. So when I think about businesses and how businesses run, they're not leveraging technology, not even though we think, oh, everything is software, we're literally using a 0.4% of the potential of what we can do with technology. And the way there is not just shoving more software and more apps down the company throat. It's the opposite. It's enable and empower more people that have that role, even, the operation teams, that literally that's their role to improve the processes. But they cannot code. They don't know how to code. They understand legal processes. They understand sales processes. They understand marketing processes. They can do amazing stuff in a spreadsheet, but they're not coders. How can I empower them to build custom solutions? Because that's kind of where it all comes down to in my mind, and why, we're excited about what we're doing. If you make something that allows people to do things better, you impact the world for sure, but you impact it in a linear way. If you allow more people to do things better, you expand the pie, then your impact becomes exponential. You don't even know where it will take you. And we all experience that with an iPhone and what it changed the world. It's not only the iPhone, it's the fact that now more people can write applications to the iPhone, created a situation where there's an application for everything and completely transform how everyone works. You've never thought about, when they created the iPhone, they never thought about the magnitude and scope of things that people have built for it. And so similarly, we're trying to create a movement and trying to instill that concept of, iterative approach, literally agile approach to how you run the business. And to do that, you need a framework and architecture that allows you to do that. Just like the cloud allowed, agile development in software development. So, it's a lot of stuff, but it all comes back to that very basic concept of we need to empower more people to leverage software.
I think that what leaves me, very inspired from this conversation, I came in understanding that, processes are complicated, data-driven world is complicated. There's a mismatch between the company's ability to connect the business and the data and make better decisions. But we're actually touching on something that's a little bit deeper. And you're actually saying we're actually misusing the potential of the people that are around us, and the potential of people in the company that of what they could do as makers. Today, they may not have the skills to do that, because frankly, coding is, just this last generation or maybe 2 generations. And even in those generations, the disparity of those that are able to learn how to code is really big. There's disparity, and bridging the gap is not easy either. And so I think that this is going to leave me with a lot of thoughts, and I really want to thank you for this time.
I'll leave you with the last quote that I just love from Picasso, which is, completely random, but actually he said, computers are dumb. They can only answer questions. And I think the point is, the hard part is asking the questions.
Right.
The hard part is something that only us creative people can do. And so if we're not enabling people to do more, if we're just trying to automate or take away work from them, or just gather data for the sake of gathering it, we haven't done anything. Right. we just check the box. So
100%. Sagi, I really want to thank you for the time and everything. And this is such a pleasure and inspiring. Thank you for spending this time with me, and best of luck with Tonkean and with everything else that you're doing, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the time.